Property Line Thief. Part 1. The Untouchable HOA Dictator. My HOA president secretly built a $50,000 luxury pool on my property while I was away on business. She thought her title made her a god. So, I used federal real estate law to legally force her to smash her dream pool to pieces with a sledgehammer. Grab a drink. Let's get into it. I bought my house 5 years ago. It's a beautiful 4-bedroom property sitting on a massive half-acre lot in a premium suburban neighborhood. The property values here are incredibly high. It was a quiet sanctuary until Susan took power. Susan didn't just become the HOA president. She crowned herself the supreme dictator of our zip code. She was a deeply bitter, entitled Karen who had absolutely no control over her own miserable life. So she decided to aggressively control ours. She drove around in her golf cart with a clipboard, handing out fines like candy. She fined an elderly veteran $300 because his rose bushes were too vibrant. She fined a young mother because her toddler left a plastic tricycle in the driveway for exactly 12 minutes. But Susan had a very specific, burning hatred for me. Why? Because I am a quiet, single data architect who works from home. I maintain my house perfectly. I never gave her a single excuse to fine me. I was the one resident she couldn't control, and to a narcissist like Susan, lack of control is an absolute insult. Every time I drove past her, she would glare at me with this venomous, calculating look. I could feel the tension building. It was a silent, psychological war. I knew she was desperately waiting for me to slip up, but I never imagined that when she couldn't find a reason to fine me, she would just decide to steal my land instead. In mid-July, my firm sent me on a mandatory 3-week data integration project in London. Before I left, I made absolutely sure my property was flawless. I even prepaid a professional landscaping company to cut my grass every single week. I wasn't going to give Susan an inch. For 3 weeks, I worked grueling 14-hour days. All I wanted in the world was to come back to my quiet house, sit on my back patio, and drink a cold beer in peace. When the taxi dropped me off, it was late afternoon. I dragged my luggage inside, exhausted to my bones. I walked into my kitchen, poured a glass of water, and looked out the sliding glass doors into my backyard. The glass slipped out of my hand and shattered on the hardwood floor. My heart stopped. Literally, my chest tightened so hard I couldn't breathe. Where there used to be 30 feet of pristine, green grass separating my property from Susan's, there was now a massive 10-foot-high luxury stone retaining wall. Behind it, I could hear the heavy splashing of an Olympic-sized swimming pool waterfall. I walked outside, my hands physically shaking. I paced the distance. Susan hadn't just built a wall. She had completely expanded her backyard footprint. 15 feet deep into my property line, she stole 15 feet of land along a 60-foot border. In real estate terms, she had just robbed me of nearly $40,000 in property equity. I marched straight over to her house and pounded on the heavy oak door. Susan opened it, holding a glass of white wine. She wasn't surprised. She wore a smug, predatory smirk. "Susan," I said, keeping my voice dangerously low. "What the hell is that stone wall doing on my property?" She took a slow sip of her wine. "Oh, David. Welcome back. Don't be so dramatic. That is my new pool enclosure. It is on my land. You encroached on my property line by 15 feet. She rolled her eyes, pulled a crisp document from her table, and shoved it at me. "Actually, David, under Section 4 of our bylaws, the HOA reserves the right to repurpose abandoned or neglected property lines for community enhancement. You abandoned the property. The board unanimously approved my construction permit." My brain short-circuited. Abandoned? I was in London for 3 weeks. An HOA cannot legally seize private real estate. Susan stepped closer, her eyes turning completely black and vicious. "I am the HOA president, David. I am the law here. Take it up with the board if you want, but you will lose. Now get off my porch before I fine show you for trespassing." She slammed the door in my face. I stood there in the dark. She thought real estate laws didn't apply to her. She thought she was untouchable. That night, I didn't sleep. I drank black coffee and researched real estate litigation until the sun came up. At 8 a.m. sharp, I was sitting in the expensive leather office of Mr. Sterling, the most ruthless real estate attorney in the state. I handed him my property deed, the county plot map, and Susan's ridiculous HOA approval letter. Sterling pushed his glasses up, read the letter, and actually started laughing. "David," he said, "this isn't an HOA dispute. This is textbook corporate fraud, trespassing, and unauthorized destruction of private property. Her HOA letter is legally worthless garbage. State law always supersedes a neighborhood club." I looked him dead in the eye. "I don't just want the wall gone, Sterling. I want her completely ruined." Sterling smiled. "Let's go to war. Step 1, the trap. We needed her to completely incriminate herself." 3 days later, an official county land surveyor arrived at my house. He set up his laser topographic equipment and started driving thick neon orange steel stakes deep into the ground to mark the true legal boundary. The neon orange line went straight through her expensive stone wall, right across her imported Italian tile pool deck, and ended inches away from the pool water itself. When Susan drove up and saw the orange stakes, she lost her mind. I was sitting on my patio, sipping iced tea, watching her sprint across the grass in her high heels. She started screaming, grabbing the steel stakes and ripping them out of the ground. Big mistake. I had installed hidden 4K security cameras the day after I got back. I caught her tampering with official county surveyor markers on crystal clear video. That is a federal misdemeanor. Step 2, the lawsuit. We didn't just send a polite letter. Sterling drafted a devastating multi-count civil lawsuit. We sued Susan personally for trespassing, property damage, and emotional distress. But to maximize the financial bleed, we also sued the entire HOA board for breach of fiduciary duty and fraudulent approval of building permits. We demanded $150,000 in damages, plus immediate demolition. We served her the lawsuit publicly. During the crowded monthly HOA community meeting, a professional process server walked right up to her podium and slapped the massive stack of legal documents down in front of the entire neighborhood. The color drained from her face. Her smugness vanished. She looked up in pure terror, locked eyes with me in the back row, and I just gave her a slow, sarcastic wave. The courtroom battle was an absolute slaughter. Susan hired a cheap, discount lawyer who actually tried to argue that the HOA bylaws gave her the authority to seize my land. The judge, a no-nonsense woman with zero tolerance for HOA drama, literally stopped him mid-sentence. "Counselor," the judge glared, "are you seriously arguing that a neighborhood book club has the authority to overwrite the United States Constitution and seize private real estate without compensation?" Susan's lawyer choked. He had nothing. The verdict was completely brutal. Susan was ordered to pay me $40,000 in damages for the stress and temporary loss of property value. She was ordered to pay my $35,000 legal fees. But the absolute best part? The judge issued a strict 14-day mandatory demolition order. Because Susan had completely drained her life savings building the $50,000 pool, she couldn't afford to hire a professional demolition crew. So she had to do it herself. For 2 full weekends, I sat on my patio in a comfortable lawn chair, drinking cold beers, watching Susan, her husband, and her 2 teenage sons swing heavy sledgehammers in the blistering 90-degree summer heat. Every time the heavy hammer hit the stone, a piece of her ego shattered. They had to smash every single luxury stone block, tear up the Italian tile, and haul it away in wheelbarrows. Susan sat on her porch covered in dust, crying hysterically as her dream oasis was reduced to a pile of ugly rubble. The HOA board immediately held an emergency vote, and stripped her of her presidency to avoid further legal liability. She became the absolute pariah of the neighborhood. 6 months later, unable to afford the court-ordered payments and facing a massive lien on her house, she quietly put her property on the market and moved away in utter shame. I got my 15 feet of land back. And Susan, she got exactly what she deserved. Absolute financial and social ruin. Don't mess with people's property, Karen. If you enjoyed watching this HOA dictator get exactly what she deserved, smash that like button right now. It really helps the channel out. And make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next episode of HOA Nightmares. Drop a comment below. What would you have done if your neighbor stole your backyard? See you in the next one.